Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 26 of Lives of the Saints.
That's crazy. That's a big number.
With the great Jeremy Firth.
Only in the old sense of the word, meaning like large in stature.
Yeah. I was talking with Jeremy just before we jumped on about the roundtable that I watched with Jonathan Peugeot, Aidan Hart. Who else did I say?
Lots of people.
Vesper.
Vesper Stamper.
Ben Stamper. Martin Shaw. Andrew Gould. John Hears. And the couple from Dirt Poor Robin. Or Robin.
Yep. Robbins, yeah. And then Heather Paulington.
Yeah, she was the illustrator for his fairy tales. So, and they were talking about, well, you got the title of the video there?
I do. I will share it. Started playing. Hold on.
It's on Aidan Hart's channel, which I didn't know existed until just the other day. So I've added these wonderful new channels to my subscription list. There it is. Renewing Civilization Through Art and Culture. And then I think Zeke wrote on the Discord that they're all Orthodox. I don't know all of them. Is Heather Paulington Orthodox as well?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know either.
But everyone else is.
Vesper and Ben Stamper a married couple?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And they are Orthodox as well.
Yeah.
So it looks like there's no video; it's just audio. But
yeah, it's just audio. There's no video. But it's a really interesting listen. The whole question of Christian civilization and what that looks like, and then Andrew Gould has some really great things to say about architecture.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely been one of the vectors of demoralization in America, at least.
And it was also, I heard a lot of people mentioning the architecture of the building that they met in for ARC. It was like a big warehouse, and it was very, not conducive to, I don't know, intimate conversation. Well, like it was loud and echoey and overly large, and I don't know. Yeah. So that was kind of interesting. And then he made some great comments on what that kind of architecture does to you,
Yeah.
Like psychologically and stuff.
Yeah. That would be interesting to hear.
Yeah, it was good.
I'll have to listen to it.
Yeah. So, what have you been up to?
Got the sound system finally mostly done. It's all functional. So we got the downstairs. It's going to basically act as it's like our fellowship hall. It's going to act as an overflow.
Yeah.
For for the main, because our church is so full. We have so many people. So we got the sound working down there. That was a lot of work. But we had a guy who donated a lot of the equipment and a lot of his time to help us get that done. So I'm really grateful for that.
Okay, so you're not doing overflow for the liturgy down there.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, some people end up down there anyway because they're kids, right? So at least now they can hear it.
Okay.
So yeah, we're going to put in camera and stream the video down there too. So right now it's just audio. So if you're down there with your kids, at least you can still hear the service. But there'll also be video, and the intent is, especially we're coming into Great Lent, and that's where, people who can't come as often really start to try to show up,
Yeah.
especially on Sundays. And then, Pascha, of course, is just going to be a zoo.
Yeah.
So we wanted to have a place where if people wanted to, they could at least go have a place to stand and see and hear what's going on.
That's amazing.
So yeah, we're packed. It's unbelievable. I mean, I think I told you we have just over 100 catechumens right now.
Yeah.
In our parish.
Well, how big is the building? Like how many comfortably fit? Is it a small church or?
I mean, so we have between 250 and 350 a week, and that's like packed, like people standing out in the narthex, because it's just too full to come in. We're still trying to get people to come in and come clear up to the front and step forward more, but I mean that's kind of the capacity pretty much. And we've had more than one person who said they've just found a different Orthodox church to go to because our parking lot's too full. So
Wow.
A lot of people aren't aware that you can actually park at the library. I need to start advertising that, but anyway, it's crazy. Yeah, it's nuts.
That is crazy.
I can't believe it.
So when you started going there, 5 years ago, how many people were showing up?
Oh, probably 100, 120.
Yeah.
Thank you, Upcycle.
Yeah, thank you, Upcycle.
But yeah, we had about 120. And then also I saw that Grizz is also streaming tonight. He's fighting some monster Chat GPT RPG, I guess, something.
Oh,
so anyway.
Really?
So he's streaming at the same time, yeah. So
okay. So we might.
It was our spot first, Grizz. So sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Come on. You're bumping our night, Grizz.
Yeah.
What can we say?
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, it's grown a ton. I mean, it's crazy. And we get now we're getting new catechumens every week. Last Sunday there were 4 new catechumens. So but it sounds like we're very close to. Good evening, Joy. Thanks for joining us. This evening it sounds like this evening, I'm sorry. There's some developments indicating that we may be very close to getting a second priest, which thank God.
That's probably should be happening. I mean, I can't imagine how your priest is managing.
Well, he's not. That's what's happened. So we have a military priest who's attached to our parish, but he's not full time, and he doesn't. He's mainly military, right? So he's a military chaplain.
Yeah.
So that's been helpful because he's covered for my priest when my priest can't. My priest is sick or out of town or whatever. But he can't always be there either because of his military commitments. And so, yeah, we've needed a second priest for 2 years, and finally, my priest has been pretty ill for about 3 weeks now. And they finally realized that they've burned him. They've burned through him, and that they need to bring him some help. So,
but I've heard that that's a real problem right now. Like, there's not a lot of priests.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. Well, especially where we have pretty. I mean, he drives pretty far sometimes to bring the Eucharist to older people who can't come, or and just doing house blessings and stuff. So yeah, it's been hard to see him because he works 60 or 70 hours a week every week.
Yeah.
It's just,
and he has a family, I take it.
Yeah, he's got 5 or 6 kids. I can't remember. One of them's a baby.
Wow.
One of his his youngest I think is like 14 months. If that, like 12 months, something around there.
Well, it's a good thing he's got that many people praying for him.
Yeah. Well, we definitely are, but still, I mean,
yeah.
He's pretty worn out. So it looks like we might get some relief and actually get a second priest. So
good.
Hope so. Yeah, it would be nice.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be really great. It'd be nice.
Well, do you want to start with a prayer, Jeremy? And then
sure. Yep. Let me pull one up. Hold on. Why can't I find it? Prayer before. Oh, there it is. I found it. Okay. Illumine our hearts, O Master, who lovest mankind, with the pure light of thy divine knowledge. Open the eyes of our mind to the understanding of thy gospel teachings. Implant also in us the fear of thy blessed commandments, that trampling down all carnal desires, we may enter upon a spiritual manner of living, both thinking and doing such things as are well-pleasing unto thee. For thou art the illumination of our souls and bodies, O Christ our God, and unto thee we ascribe glory, together with thy Father, who is from everlasting, and thine all holy, good, and life-giving Spirit, now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
So, tonight we have Saint Cecilia, because I was talking to Tim, and he was telling me about an encounter that he had at an exhibition. And I didn't actually. I was going to send you that photo, but I forgot to. So I thought, well, let's hear more about Saint Cecilia. So
yeah, great. Okay, let me share my screen. Here it goes. There we go. I'll move it over here so I can see. Virgin Martyr Cecilia and the holy martyrs Valerian, Tiberius, and Maximus at Rome. Saint Cecilia was born in Rome during the 3rd century to wealthy and illustrious parents who were idolaters. Hearing the gospel preached, she came to believe in Christ and vowed to preserve her virginity. Against her will, however, they betrothed her to a noble pagan named Valerian and forced her to wear fine clothes and jewelry at all times. Beneath these rich garments, she wore a rough hair shirt. Filled with love for her bridegroom Christ, she entreated him to prevent the wedding. When the day of the marriage arrived, Saint Cecilia wept bitterly and prayed that the Lord would send an angel to guard her chastity. That night, as they were led to the bridal chamber, she told her husband that an invisible angel had been sent to defend her virginity. "If you touch me," she said, "he will slay you at once." Valerian asked to see this angel, but she told him, "You cannot see the angel because you do not know the true God. You will not be able to see the angel until you are cleansed of the impurity of unbelief." "How may I be cleansed?" he asked. She said that if he asked Bishop Urban to baptize him, he would be able to see the angel. The saint persuaded her husband to see Bishop Urban, who was hiding from the persecution in a cave along the Appian Way. The wise bishop's instructions filled Valerian's soul with joy, and after his baptism, Bishop Urban sent him home. He found Cecilia praying and saw an angel of indescribable beauty standing beside her, holding 2 crowns of red roses and white lilies. Placing the wreaths on their head, he said, "Guard these wreaths by keeping your hearts pure and your bodies undefiled. I have brought them from paradise, and no one can see them unless they, like you, are lovers of chastity. God sent me to you, Valerian, because you have agreed to preserve your purity. He wants you to have what you desire." Valerian said, "No one is dearer to me than my brother Tiberius. I asked the Lord to deliver him from the worship of idols and convert him as he converted me." The angel said that his request was pleasing to God and would be granted. He also revealed that Valerian and Tiberius would suffer martyrdom together. Soon after this, Tiberius came to visit his brother. When he entered the house, he noticed the fragrance of roses and lilies. Valerian told him that he was able to smell the flowers because he had prayed that Tiberius would come to love God and become worthy of an unfading crown. "Am I dreaming?" Tiberius exclaimed. "Or are you really telling me this?" Valerian answered, "Until now we have been living as if in a dream, worshipping false gods and unclean demons. Now we walk in God's truth and grace." After receiving instruction, Tiberius was baptized by Bishop Urban. The brothers distributed part of their inheritance to the poor, took care of the sick, and buried the Christians who had been tortured to death by their persecutors. This was reported to Almachius, the eparch of the city, who ordered that the brothers be arrested and brought to trial. He ordered the saints to renounce Christ and offer sacrifice to the pagan gods, but the brothers refused. Then they scourged the brothers without mercy. Saint Valerian urged the Christians not to fear torments, but to stand firm for Christ. In order to prevent the brothers from influencing the people, Almachius ordered that the martyrs be taken outside the city and executed there. The soldiers accompanying the martyrs to execution were commanded by Maximus. He was amazed at the courage of the saints and asked them why they did not fear death. The holy brothers said that they were exchanging this temporal life for everlasting life. Maximus wanted to learn Christian teaching in detail. He took Saints Valerian and Tiberius to his own house and conversed with them all night. When she heard of this, Saint Cecilia went with a priest to Maximus. Then he and his entire family were baptized. The next day, when the martyrs Valerian and Tiberius were beheaded, Saint Maximus confessed before everyone that he saw their holy souls being taken up to heaven. Because of this, the holy martyr Maximus was beaten to death. The eparch wanted to confiscate the property of those who had been executed, but when he was told that Saint Cecilia had already given her remaining wealth to the poor and had converted 400 men, he ordered her execution. For 3 days they tormented her in an overheated bathhouse with the heat and steam, but she was helped by the grace of God. Seeing that Saint Cecilia was still alive, they decided to behead her. The executioner struck her 3 times with a sword, but only wounded her. The holy martyr lived 3 more days in full consciousness, encouraging those around her. Finally, she surrendered her soul to God, and her body was buried with reverence. Saint Cecilia is regarded as the patron saint of church music. Saint John Chrysostom extols the benefits of sacred music and shows how strongly the fire of divine love is kindled in the soul by devout psalmody. The holy relics of Saint Valerian and Tiberius are in the Roman Catholic Basilica of Saints Valerian and Cecilia in Rome. Here's her icon. There we go.
That's quite a story.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. I didn't know Saint Cecilia before.
Yeah. No.
Maybe we have her intercessions.
Yes. Wow. So sorry. I was just going to ask, what was the year? Forgot.
Yeah, she was in the 3rd century, but I don't think we had any more specifics than that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so in the 200s.
And what were the persecutions happening then, Jeremy? Do you remember?
Well, wasn't
that the worst time?
Yeah, that was the worst time. Let's see, Emperor Diocletian. That was let's see. Yeah, so that was right before Diocletian. It could have been during Diocletian. So yeah, and Diocletian was like the worst tormentor of the Christians. But excuse me. Yeah, the Christians were being persecuted and tortured and martyred all over the place in Rome at the time. It still hadn't been converted yet.
Right.
Pre-Constantinople, or pre-Constantine, I should say.
Constantine, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's why the bishop was hiding in a cave, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so. Okay. We will do St. Porphyrios now. Share screen, St. Porphyrios.
Is there a reason you wanted to do him? Is it his...
Tomorrow is his name day.
Okay.
So he was just one of the saints that were included in my priest's email. So I thought we'd share him.
Mm-hmm.
St. Porphyrios, Bishop of Gaza. St. Porphyrios, Archbishop of Gaza, was born about the year 346 at Thessalonica. His parents were people of substance, and this allowed St. Porphyrios to receive a fine education. Having the inclination for monastic life, he left his native region at 25 years of age and set off for Egypt, where he lived in the Nitrian desert under the guidance of Saint Macarius the Great. There he also met Saint Jerome, who was then visiting the Egyptian monasteries. Saint Jerome is the saint who translated the scriptures into Latin for the first time.
Oh, okay.
He went to Jerusalem on pilgrimage to the holy places and to venerate the life-creating cross of the Lord. Then he moved into a cave in the Jordanian wilderness for prayer and ascetic deeds. After 5 years, St. Porphyrios was afflicted with a serious malady of the legs. He decided to go to the holy places of Jerusalem to pray for healing. As he lay half-conscious at the foot of Golgotha, St. Porphyrios fell into a sort of trance. He beheld Jesus Christ descending from the cross and saying to him, "Take this wood and preserve it." Coming out of his trance, he found himself healthy and free from pain. Then he gave away all his money to the poor and for the adornment of the churches of God. For a time he supported himself by working as a shoemaker. The words of the Savior were fulfilled when the saint was 45 years old. The Patriarch of Jerusalem ordained St. Porphyrios to the holy priesthood and appointed him custodian of the venerable wood of the cross of the Lord. In 395, the bishop of the city of Gaza in Palestine died. The local Christians went to Caesarea to ask Metropolitan John to send them a new bishop who would be able to contend against the pagans, which were predominant in their city and were harassing the Christians there. The Lord inspired the Metropolitan to summon the priest Porphyrios. With fear and trembling, the ascetic accepted the office of bishop, and with tears he prostrated himself before the life-creating wood and went to fulfill his new obedience. In Gaza, there were only 3 Christian churches, but there were a great many pagan temples and idols. During this time, there had been a long spell without rain, causing a severe drought. The pagan priests brought offerings to their idols, but the woes did not cease. St. Porphyrios imposed a fast for all the Christians. He then served an all-night vigil, followed by a church procession around the city. Immediately the sky covered over with storm clouds, thunder boomed, and abundant rains poured down. Seeing this miracle, many pagans cried out, "Christ is indeed the only true God." As a result of this, 127 men, 35 women, and 14 children were united to the church through holy baptism, and another 110 men soon after this. The pagans continued to harass the Christians. They passed them over for public office and burdened them with taxes. St. Porphyrios and Metropolitan John of Caesarea journeyed to Constantinople to seek redress from the emperor. St. John Chrysostom received them and assisted them. Saints John and Porphyrios were presented to the Empress Eudoxia, who was expecting a child at the time. "Intercede for us," said the bishops to the empress, "and the Lord will send you a son who shall reign during your lifetime." Eudoxia very much wanted a son, since she had given birth only to daughters. Through the prayer of the saints, an heir was born to the imperial family. As a result of this, the emperor issued an edict in 401 ordering the destruction of pagan temples in Gaza and the restoration of privileges to Christians. Moreover, the emperor gave the saints money for the construction of a new church, which was to be built in Gaza on the site of the chief pagan temple. St. Porphyrios upheld Christianity in Gaza to the very end of his life and guarded his flock from the vexatious pagans. Through the prayers of the saint, numerous miracles and healings occurred. The holy archpastor guided his flock for 25 years and reposed in 420 and at an advanced age.
Do you know who all those people are?
No, I do not read Greek.
And Upcycle's not here.
Yep. Although, you know what? I have an app on my phone that will. Hold on. Let me see. It's the strangest of days to use an app on your phone to translate an icon, but here we are. It's not recognizing it. Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not liking it. St. Porphyrios is on the left. The older gentleman on the left is St.
Okay.
Porphyrios. I got that one. Let's see. Nope, didn't get any of the others, but it did get St. Porphyrios.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, worked out.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. That's great.
Sure. My pleasure.
So, I mean, did they use the term Gaza because that's the modern name, or was it always Gaza?
It was always Gaza.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Just that little strip of land was always Gaza?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yep.
Nathan says St. Cecilia Society keeps wonderful music happening in very many places. Can you check that out?
Yeah, I will pull that up. Let's share my screen. This is just Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt. The St. Cecilia Society of Charleston, South Carolina, named for the traditional patron saint of music, was formed in 1766 as a private subscription concert organization. Over the next 54 years, its annual concert series formed the most sophisticated musical phenomenon in North America. Due to the loss of the organization's administrative records during the American Civil War, much inaccurate information about the society has been published. Its important role in the formation of early American musical culture has largely been overlooked. Although its musical patronage ended in 1820, the St. Cecilia Society continues to flourish today as one of South Carolina's oldest and most exclusive social institutions. Wow. And I didn't know that.
That is amazing. You know, I think I just have to find it here. Zeke said something today about Andrew Gould is in South Carolina. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. Andrew Gould is in South Carolina and John Hears is in South Carolina. Is that true?
Yeah, I knew John was. I didn't know that Andrew Gould was.
Yeah. Lots going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've heard the weather's pretty good most of the time. Except for when it's not. Like anywhere, I guess.
Except for when there's a hurricane, right?
What's that?
Except for when there's a hurricane.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the jets are flying over there, letting everybody know they're here. We go like weeks without ever hearing the jets, and then I don't know, maybe the a squadron comes back. Today it's all F-22s flying around.
Wow.
So I guess they come back and start showing off. Because there's a bombing range out. You have to fly. My house is closer to the base than the bombing range by a lot. But they fly over my house to get out to the bombing range. So go out there a lot. Out to the salt flats.
So they just, do you ever see or hear it when they're bombing?
No, it's way too far away. Yeah,
okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I put a link in the chat if anybody wants to join us. So have you got anything on your mind, Jeremy? I've had a busy day. Like I was in town and then rushed home. Thought I had some time to just chill out and looked at the clock and I'm like, kind of flew into my seat and here I am.
Yeah, and here we are.
I feel like I'm still a bit in a whirlwind.
Yeah, not well. we at men's group on Sunday night, we talked about the ascetical homilies of Saint Isaac the Syrian. And it's a hefty book. I had it out here. I showed it on stream a couple of weeks ago, but when we talked about Saint Isaac, actually. But I took it back in the house, so I don't have it. But there was another saint who was talking about it, and he basically said, all you need to do is read one page a day, not even one whole homily, just read one page a day. And he said, just that page will act as a mirror that will reveal the blemishes in your soul to you. And you can ponder that page through the day. And he said, if you keep up that practice, then, it's very good spiritual medicine.
Oh, really?
It's very, just reading a page a day of St. Isaac the Syrian.
I want to write this down.
Yeah. I'll pull up a ascetical homilies. It looks like this. This isn't, let's see. We'll share my screen. It is.
Okay.
His audience is monks, but even lay people benefit from reading what he's talking about. He has one homily in particular. It's either 37 or 39. I can't remember. That talks about the four ways that it's called the workings of the devil, and it's the four main ways that the devil attacks you. And he's like, there's other ways, but it's too dark and I can't talk about them, but I can tell you these things, and this is all you need to know.
Right.
And he shared the four ways that the devil works against you. And that I read it yesterday after, we talked about it on Sunday, and it was really powerful. Now you're going to ask me, can you give us the highlights? And the answer would be no, because I'm tired and I can't remember. Forgive me.
It's okay.
But it's very good. It's a very good sermon. Yeah, this is very beautiful. It's a very beautiful volume. It has the 2-color printing, so it's got black and with red highlights in all of the artwork, and it's really beautiful. It's a great book.
Yeah.
And it's not cheap, but highly worth it. Highly worth it.
Is it from St. Vladimir's?
No, Holy Transfiguration.
Okay.
Monastery. But the subdeacon who was teaching us about it, he said, I hesitated to buy it. It's kind of expensive. I wasn't sure. I needed another book. I have so many other books I've read that I haven't read on my shelf, And he said, but I got it, and I started reading it, and he said, I genuinely believe that I really don't need to ever buy another book.
Wow.
He said, with the scriptures and this book, it's so rich.
Yeah.
That he said, I don't think I could. I think I could go the rest of my life without ever buying another Orthodox book.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty great. I've been starting to dig into that.
Yeah. And you're doing that as a group?
No. Just he just encouraged us, but I think there's a few of us who are reading it. But
yeah. One of the things that stood out to me in both of the stories that you read today was the giving away of all their wealth. And
oh, yes.
I couldn't help but think of Paul Kingsnorth's Erasmus lecture.
Yes.
And how people react so strongly when they hear things like that, to the point of, like, I personally think there isn't really a good argument that you can make against what Paul is saying, because what Paul is saying is what Jesus taught.
Right.
Like
You cannot, you
it,
cannot serve two masters. It's a God and mammon,
yeah,
right?
right.
And
Yeah.
mammon is stuff, by the way. Mammon is your stuff. It's like
Yeah.
the worldly stuff. The stuff that's in your shed, the stuff that's in your storage unit, the stuff that's in your garage.
Have you ever heard?
Boxes.
My mind travels very quickly.
It's all good.
But have you ever heard the George Carlin bit on stuff?
Remind me.
Well, he just talks about how we have to have stuff.
Oh.
And the way that he makes fun of it is he imagines, well, first of all, I think I'm trying to remember how he starts it out, but I think it's something like, you have a house in which to put your stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then you need bigger bedrooms for more stuff, right? And then you need, a separate room for your other stuff. And he just keeps calling it stuff.
Yes, right.
And then he talks about going on a holiday, and then you have to decide what stuff you're going to take with you. And then you arrive and you take your stuff out and you find places to put your stuff, and he just, it's so worth watching.
That's funny. That's good commentary.
Yeah, because he really brings your attention to the truth of the matter. Like,
I don't quite understand your question, Brian. No good argument, because that's what Jesus taught.
That's what I
sell,
said.
Yeah, to give up your wealth and give it to sell your wealth and sell everything you own and give it to the poor. When the young man approached him, obviously it doesn't apply to everybody, right? I mean, it was a question that he asked because he had already been following he'd been following all the commandments. And that's what he needed to do, because that's where his heart was attached. But Christ does say you cannot serve two masters. You can't serve God and mammon. Mm-hmm. You'll either love one and hate the other, or you'll hate, you can't love two masters. So I'm not really sure the angle of your criticism. Do the Orthodox not have the ancient teaching of the evangelical councils? Do you mean the ecumenical councils? That I don't really know what that phrase means and how to interpret that episode of the Gospels.
Well, I would.
Sorry, go ahead.
I have one thing that I could say about it, because when I said it, it's a hard thing to hear, right? No good argument, because that's what Jesus taught. I mean, that's true. He said a lot of things that are really difficult. But I always think those things are something that you have to chew on. And Paul Kingsnorth has actually said the same thing. Like, he hasn't thrown off the mantle of money, and like, he's not a shoemaker. He has a family, right?
Right.
That he has to support, as do many of us. And so, but you still have to contend with the things Jesus said, right? In one way or another. And, the rich young ruler is a good story, because he says the same thing there: sell everything you have and follow me. But the rich young ruler doesn't do it right away. According to church tradition, that was Barnabas, and he did it later in his life when he was an older man. And part of the reason that the rich young ruler went away sad was because he couldn't imagine. He was at the beginning of his life trying to build something, right? Maybe wanting to have a wife and children, and didn't actually follow the advice until later in his life. So, we have to contend with it. It's there. But I guess for me, the heart of the matter is you can't just dismiss what Paul Kingsnorth is saying, right? You can't just dismiss that.
Yeah. I'm still not following what you're saying, Brian. In listening to Kingsnorth, I got the impression that he hadn't heard of the evangelical councils. I don't know what those are.
That
and
must
so
be
misread, misapplied that episode in the life of our Lord.
Maybe he means the ecumenical councils.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know what the evangelical councils are.
Dave's not sure either. And Dave, I just wanted to say, I know this is backwards but if I have it on the front, I found that the sound wasn't as good for some reason. So
yeah, it's too far away from your mouth anyway. You don't need it.
Yeah,
like your P's aren't landing in the microphone, so it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to address your question, Brian, but I don't really understand the evangelical councils.
He said he's going to do some research.
Okay.
He's going to figure it out. Yeah. 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 But I have to say, Paul Kingsnorth recently made an announcement on his Substack that he wants to make his content free for everybody. And it was for the longest while behind a paywall, almost everything. He had the Holy Well series was free, I think. And I'm not sure if the Wild
Which
Saints,
I loved, by the way.
Me too. And I'm not sure if he does an occasional thing on Wild Saints as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if that was free or not. I'm subscribed, like I'm paying for my subscription, so I'm not ever sure which ones are free and which ones are not. But he did say that he would like to make it free for everyone, and so he just was asking people, to support that by supporting him, because I think that's his main income. So that was really cool to see, because that was after the Erasmus lectures, and it's more of a, Paul has, I think at last count that I saw, it was like 71,000 subscribers.
Wow.
So that's a lot of money.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's, letting some of it go, I'm sure. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
He put his money where his mouth is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Maybe blessed. Yeah. Yeah. I struggle with holding on to mammon. I think for me, oh, and by the way, I did a little research on evangelical councils real quick, and it's a Catholic. Let me share this because it ties into what I was about to say. In Christianity, the three evangelical councils, or councils of perfection, are chastity, poverty, and obedience. As stated by Jesus in the canonical Gospels, they are counsels for those who desire to become perfect, which is, we're all called to that. The Catholic Church interprets this to mean that they are not binding upon all, and hence not necessary conditions to attain eternal life, but that they are acts of, I don't know how to say that word, I'm sorry, over and above the minimum stipulated in the biblical commandments. We kind of have a different view of how that works. So, I do know, monks definitely take a vow of poverty. They don't have any possessions. So it might apply in that way, but we feel that everyone is called to be perfect. We don't think that that's above and beyond. So it's a little different. And we would say that, like I said, that God also, sorry, I was reading while I was thinking, which never works well. Christ did say you can't serve two masters, and to, lay up your treasures in heaven where moth and dust cannot corrupt. Right. And so we would see it in that light.
So are you saying
probably a little
that
separation there?
The term evangelical council is a Catholic term?
It sounds like it. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like that's
That's
kind of
why
a
it's not really.
Catholic doctrine. Yeah, that's why I had never heard
Yeah.
that phrase before. But
Okay.
and all I could say is, like, for myself, I struggle with it because I have a bit of the hoard, and it's from anxiety.
Mm.
And as my anxiety is being healed through my relationship with God, I will say it's getting easier and easier for me to let go of all these things that I don't need, or that, I have a few things that remind me of my loved ones, who have passed, or
Yeah.
friends, or memories. But a lot of the things I had were contingencies if things go bad. And I've realized now I don't, I mean, we have some food storage and stuff. We do that just to, not for, like, only to be able to, I mean, not only to take care of our family, but also, other people in the parish if things, go south or whatever. But it's, for me, I definitely had a spirit of gluttony. You could tell, I mean, you saw me in person, you would know I'm a big guy, right? Like, so I walk around about 250 right now. And that is seeking comfort in this world, and it's seeking comfort through pleasures and through the comforts of the flesh, rather than turning to God and crying out to him, and recognizing my full reliance on him, my full dependence on him. And instead I distract myself with the comforts of food, and then also the comforts of thinking, oh, I have propane, oh, I have camping supplies, oh, I have all this stuff, and since I have stuff, I'll be safe, which is crazy. That's not true, right? You don't know how catastrophe is going to strike, and you don't know what kind of catastrophe is going to strike, and you don't know how it will affect your hoard, right? Because the catastrophe might be a fire, and then your hoard is nothing, right? So I am slowly being healed of this tendency I have to hold on to things I don't need, but I do feel that it's a call that all of us are called to make, to turn away from the things of the world, and to focus on God as much as we can.
Hi, Eugene.
Hello,
Eugene,
guys.
welcome.
Good to see you.
You too. You too. Yeah, well, this is a difficult topic because I think we all have to be called into these things. Like,
Yeah,
I like to think, and it seems like the Catholic Church, actually, in what you read there on Wikipedia, said as much. Not all are called to this, and I do believe that the Lord calls us into what he made us for as a person. Like, I'm not going to do everything Jeremy does,
right.
or Eugene does.
Thank God. Yeah.
Probably wouldn't
Good.
make much sense with my lifestyle, right? I mean, why am I doing this? Because Jeremy does it?
That's never a good plan, trust me.
And when you were talking about hoarding, I was thinking about what it's like to live in a remote place. You can't throw anything away.
Right.
You literally have to keep everything, because you don't have a hardware store nearby,
Right.
or a
Coffee cans filled with bolts all over the place, right?
everywhere.
Yeah.
Metal,
That's farm life, right?
we've pulled nails and straightened them,
Yeah.
And I don't think that is hanging on to stuff necessarily, as maybe just being a good steward, right?
Yeah.
There's that too. So
yeah, for sure.
Everything has to be measured and prayed over and discerned,
And if you're from Utah, it has to be measured.
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 We also said treasure, but you don't hear many people talk like that anymore.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I want
Ken's pretty much dead, but
I just wanted to mention here, Dave, you know, I've had quite a few people since I've been part of the online community here send me gifts, and which is just like overwhelmingly beautiful. And they are around in my home, and they are icons of those people too. You know, that's how I feel about them. So just wanted to add that. What about you, Eugene? How do you feel about all this?
Well, I've just been following for 15 minutes, and I was going to say that actually something like that came. I've been thinking about some of that because I'm a hoarder too. I hold on to some things. I don't know. Other things don't really matter, but some things really matter.
Mhm.
I don't know why, how I choose it, but I've recently read somewhere that Jesus actually used the word mammon. Uh, I, I don't remember exactly how many times he used it, probably twice. And both times it means basically unrighteous riches or something like that, literally.
Oh,
And at the
interesting.
same, yeah, in that parable about the unrighteous manager, the kind of a be the word the strange parable about the manager who forgave other people's debts. Remember that
oh
one?
yeah, I love that
From,
one. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's the first instance when he mentions mammon, and
Mm.
then also later on in the same chapter when he talks about you can't serve two masters. You're gonna either love one and hate another, things like that. But then, of course, Mammon is this, whatever Assyrian god, and actually, I read that literally it means trust. Mammon means trust, in
Mm.
whatever language it is in, and so basically the meaning then is you can't trust two things at the same time.
Oh,
Either
wow.
you trust
Mm.
the money, whatever you have, which
Yeah.
isn't bad in and of itself, but you just trust it, or you
Yep.
trust God. It's
Right.
Mm.
and it made a lot of sense to me, and
Yeah,
um,
that's a good
yeah,
word.
especially when I'm tempted to hoard. It's like, yeah, why am I trusting that this thing or even money, money will have this potential to save me,
Right.
Mm.
from whatever I think.
Yeah.
I get the idea in that case. Like that's great. I love etymology because you know, we really get down to the core meaning of some of these things, but um I get the sense that if you because there's also the scripture, I don't know where it is exactly, you know, to whom much is given, much is required, right? So you may be one of those people who has much. And but if that's the case, then the trusting thing that you were talking about, if it matters what you trust or who you trust, you could have much and trust God. And in that case, I think the mammon or the money needs to just flow through you,
Mhm.
Hmm.
right? Like
Yep.
it doesn't stop here, right?
Hmm.
That would be the trusting the mammon thing, where you know it gets here and it stops, and you just pile it up. But if you can let it flow, um, and receive it as a gift and give and can you know and give it back, then I think that would be more of a right relationship, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
what's
and
interesting
someone's
is
got to
that it
build
does.
the monasteries and the churches, right? I mean, we don't build these things through all of us taking vows of poverty. You know, wealth is not necessarily
Yes.
a bad thing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I
I was
didn't
going
mean
to
to cut you
say,
off, Eugene. Sorry.
yeah, no problem. I was going to say that, it's interesting that this doesn't correlate with how much money or how much things I have, whether I have this temptation to hoard or not. Because, I mean, I've seen many people who don't have much, they really hold on to what they have. And I've seen people who have much and they just, I mean, you can see that they just don't trust that. and I'm really grateful to that I've actually met such people, and because it's interesting just to see how a person can have a lot and be like totally not affected by it, just by talking to them or being around them.
Yeah, so we have to be careful, and I think that the clutching that happened after the Erasmus lecture from Paul Kingsnorth was the true indicator of the trusting the mammon thing. Like when it happened to Christ too, when he said the difficult things, people left.
Yes.
Right. And yeah, that's kind of what I saw a similar reaction to Paul's lecture, because people immediately assume that there's only one prescriptive thing that can happen here, and that means I have to just throw away everything I have, and which is literally irresponsible, especially if you have a family.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. We should all trust God more, Dave.
Yeah, it's been interesting to be the treasurer of the church.
Oh yeah, that's your job.
Yeah, it's a special position to be in the parish, because it's very much like you're talking about, where there's a flow that happens, and things, we're very blessed, and we don't have a mortgage. Our church is paid for, so but even then, it ebbs and flows. And I will say, though, that, like, we've been struggling, needing a priest and needing a second priest, and someone came forward and said, I'll pay the salary of a second priest for the next 3 years.
Wow.
And no one knew really that he had the means to do that. And we've just had example after example like that, of people who just step forward and offer to help with different aspects of the church and different aspects of running the church, and it's also interesting to see, through benevolence of the church, helping people, helping families through difficult situations, and how rewarding it is to be able to participate in some small way. And also, I mean, the people who are giving for those causes are also very relieved and find great joy in seeing people helped out of a bind. I know of we've got situations where people have inherited, these people inherited a house, and now and it's paid for, and now they rent it to needy people in the parish and just charge them like minimal rent. Just things like that, where it's like, I kind of have an inside view on being able to see just the quiet, hidden generosity of so many people.
That's cool.
That just, we have people who donate stuff out of their, like this one guy donates all of the dividends out of his investments, because he's like, I don't need it. What am I going to do with it? And, just little things like that, where it's like, it's beautiful to see people begin to trust in God's economy, and understand that I used to have a very transactional view of relationships, and my whole way of looking at the world was very transactional. And what's been beautiful for me to see as treasurer is how convoluted and confusing and unpredictable God's economy is, but like how much more abundant it is than any kind of transactional view of the world.
Beautiful.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, because I mean, I've never been a treasurer, but I can imagine that you get a chance to discover the real treasure, and being a treasurer, sort of like, you know, where your heart is, there your treasure will be,
Yeah.
type of thing. And I can understand that it's probably like, you know, it's visceral for you because you actually see those things flowing in, and then you realize, oh, there's God's economy above this economy that
Yes.
you know,
That's wonderful. Yeah. Thanks for that, Jeremy. That's really good.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, because like you said earlier, you know, you can't support. I mean, you said you can't build monasteries and churches, but you also can't support your own community if you don't have people around who have the extra cash and means to do that, right?
Yeah. I have a friend who is very successful in his investments, and he said his motivation is because he likes to donate large chunks of money to monasteries and churches, because he said, this is how he's like, I have that like desire to be wealthy and to like, he's very ambitious, you know, he's a very successful, ambitious person. He said, but I feel I try to baptize it by turning it to good use, you know, and it's been blessed, right, by his priest. So that's what he does. He works really hard to be able to, because he just enjoys handing it over, seeing new churches built.
Well, I mean, there is the parable of the 10 talents, and you know, you could take that, you could spiritualize that and just, you know, make it about metaphorical gifts, but it's probably true on all the levels, right?
Yeah.
And it is an investment analogy, you know?
Yeah. Well, and abundance too, you know, how it just, it's so much more than you expect sometimes, right? Where it's overwhelming. And, you know, and yeah, I'm speaking less about physical and more about spiritual, but even physical, right? Like I've traveled enough to know how blessed I am, right? I've traveled enough to know that I have a very comfortable life, you know, and I'm very grateful for it. I don't deserve it, but I'm grateful for
it. I mentioned the gifts that I received, and Dave said, I gave you a literal icon. He did. And here's the thing. All of my icons that I have in my icon corner, I've received as gifts. And
wow.
And I don't have like a ton of them, but I have a number of them, and they're very precious to me. And I've got one of the Theotokos. Actually, I can show it to you. It's really small. So this is this is the only icon I have of the Theotokos.
Wow.
It's just this little one here.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I've thought about getting a bigger one, but I just keep thinking, no, God gave me that one. You know?
Yeah.
And so I actually haven't bought any icons for myself, because I feel like the ones I have are the ones God wants me to have. You know?
Yeah.
Some people get really crazy about icons. And I could be one of those people.
Yeah.
And then it's more about stuff, right?
Yeah.
So even there.
My priest talks about that, like spiritual gluttony, where, you know, he's like, especially new converts come in and they start buying all the icons and they start buying all the books, and you fill up your bookshelves with books you've never read because you're hungry but you can't read, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're hungry but it's too much. It is that the hunger that's never satisfied, and I've definitely did that too. So
yeah, Dave, I have one of those too. I have a smaller one of the Theotokos in Christ, and both of them were sent to me by Daniel. I don't know if you remember Daniel, Dave, from the Bridges of Meaning Discord server. I don't think he's there anymore, but he sent me those. And yeah, and I travel with them too. Yeah, it's great to have those little ones. Yeah. Oh, you do remember Daniel? Yeah. I think he became a deacon, if I remember correctly. Yeah. He was an older Orthodox Christian. I mean, older as in he'd been in the Orthodox Church longer than most of us. Him and Dave, they were kind of the pastors of the Orthodox channel on Bridges of Meaning. Yeah, it was great.
Do you have any Russian icons, Eugene?
No, not here. I mean, I used to have a couple, but we didn't bring them. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. I've always had a kind of a growing up. I mean, of course, I saw a lot of icons in churches, but I was probably a long time. I just couldn't get that type of art because it's first of all, it's so it's how would I say this? It's not something you would see in the real world. It's reverse. Most of the time, it's reverse perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, older ones especially. I mean, I'm not sure if modern ones are reverse perspective.
If they're canonical, they're probably all still.
They probably should be, right?
Yeah.
But now I actually really appreciate this reverse perspective.
What is it? What are you talking about? What is reverse perspective?
It's like in the real world, if you see a table at a certain distance in front of you, right? You see that, the lines are sort of let's see this. So if you see the railway, like the rails on a railway, they will sort of collide the further away they are.
Oh yeah.
So
like
that's
like
the
this.
direct perspective, right? But the reverse perspective is when they kind of
they come to you,
come together in one point in your eyes, basically.
Right. Oh, that's
so
cool.
that's how kids draw. That kids draw in a reverse perspective.
Right. So they're popping out towards you.
Yes. So basically, in icons, it's the picture that looks at you, not you looking at the picture.
Right. Yeah, and this is what Stephen said to me, because his mother is a fine arts, or was. I'm not sure if she's reposed or passed, but she was a painter, and when he first went into an Orthodox church to inquire about incense, not to inquire about orthodoxy, he recognized that right away, and it spoke to him about the fact that they're presencing themselves in the room. And I didn't quite understand what Stephen meant, but now this is really helping.
Yeah. So these lines you can see. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but how the lines are pointing away, and they're pointing down at the saint. And it also draws you in where it makes you a participant.
Yeah.
It's like you're standing. It's like you're looking out instead of you're looking out into the icon instead of the icon going away from you.
Yeah, you're not an outsider.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not looking at it. It is looking at you.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what Stephen was talking about. They're looking at you.
Another version, another example.
So why do you appreciate that more now, Eugene?
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah, okay.
a lot of reasons, but I just for some reason I thought of a friend. I have a friend, and she grew up in a large, big family. She was one of the 11 children, and she said, I always felt very, very lost, among so many children, just like a lost child, until she became a Christian, and then one day she had this vision where she saw Jesus on the cross, and there was a huge. She was in a crowd of people, but she saw that he was looking at me,
Oh
you
wow.
know, eye to eye, and he said
Mm.
that was the most important moment in my whole life, and it's still with me, that gaze, and that eye contact with that. And so I really appreciate it. I mean, when I heard that story, it kind of stayed with me, stuck with me. And I feel that I need more of that, because in some ways we're all lost, but I've felt abandoned and lost in my life. And so when I see that I'm seen, he
Yeah.
feels me.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I mean, I want that more, to be seen, in a good way.
Yeah.
It actually has to do with the ability not to hoard also, because when you feel seen by God, I mean, there's nothing that you really want
Yeah.
to
You can
hold
let it
on
go.
to.
Right.
Yes, you just can
Yeah.
release also.
Yes.
Fig leaves, maybe.
Oh yeah, fig leaves. Yeah, false identities. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Oh, it's
know,
really cool.
when I first was setting up my icon corner, I thought it had to be just so and all these things, and I had a really nice. It's actually an old table out of an old Anglican church that I bought in an antique shop years ago. I thought I might use it as a desk, but it wasn't suitable in the end. And I thought, oh, I'm going to use this. It's really beautiful. It's solid. It's, and I had my icons on it and everything set up, and I was able to just walk past it. Like, for some reason, it just didn't. and I knew if I left everything there, I wasn't going to use it. So I just moved all my icons right beside my bed in the corner. And it's the only corner that faces east, actually. Like, if I'm standing in that corner, I'm facing east. And I want it to face east. So, and it's, when Eugene was saying it's nice to feel seen, I feel very seen every morning when I get up.
Mm.
I get up and I'm in that corner. It's that side of my bed where I'm up and I'm in that corner and I'm like, morning. Good morning, everybody. they're always up before me,
Yeah. They're ready.
waiting for me. Yeah, I don't know, it's just really beautiful. I really love it. Yeah. So that was interesting, about that reverse perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and their proportions are always a little funny too. It kind of gets under my daughter's nerves because she fancies herself an artist, and she actually is very good. She's a great artist, but she's always like, they don't look right. I was like, yeah, I know.
They usually
keep
have
looking.
smaller heads for some reason.
Yeah, they're narrower. Their ears are larger. Eyes are larger. Nose is larger and longer.
Yeah.
Mouth is narrower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all these things have reasons, but they have significance. But longer fingers as well.
Mm-hmm.
But she's always just like, something's weird. I'm like, yeah, keep looking.
Yeah, because that's the thing about it. They have to work on you.
Yeah.
They have to work on you.
Yeah.
And like that was the reason why I when I walked into the church, a church, like a church proper with icons in it for the first time into the sanctuary, I could feel it. I could feel the great cloud of witnesses. That's what made me cry. They were all there waiting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So there was a real sense of belonging in that and being seen, like Eugene was saying.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason, I've always been drawn to like light churches as opposed to dark churches, even though there were a lot of darker churches in among the Orthodox churches in my town.
Yeah.
But the actually in St. Petersburg, there's this huge almost main church called Savior on the Blood, and it's most of it is mosaic on the walls, and there's Theotokos on one of the walls, and she's all in mosaic, and she's huge, and I stood in front of that. For some reason it's a very like very light place. It's just a lot of light,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really really attractive for me for some reason.
Yeah.
And that picture was that icon was there, mosaic I should say, was just there. I just felt that it really belonged there, I should say. That's how it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
Have
lot of
you ever?
blue. It's like the sky went inside the church.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That is beautiful. Have you ever seen pictures of the Orthodox Church in Ravenna, Italy?
Orthodox, no.
Just look it up, Jeremy. Share the images.
Okay.
So this is an Orthodox church, and it's very old. And it's also supposed that Dante was quite influenced by these icons. Yeah, so
Working on it.
it's pretty.
Joy mentioned a really beautiful image too.
It's spelled Ravenna.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Ravenna. And
Yeah.
yeah. And I can't remember what century it is. I'll just wait for you to find it.
It's coming.
You're fast.
Baptism.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are those apostles up there? Or
I would guess so, yes.
6. Yeah.
Yeah, 12.
Yeah.
There's the baptistry. Oh, somebody asked about there's the octagon. There's the octagon baptismal.
That's right.
Baptistry.
Yeah.
Here's another one of the ceiling, different lighting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the same one.
This is really nice.
Oh,
yeah, that was the same. Yeah, this is really nice.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Wow.
I would really love to go here, actually. And it's nonstop. Like there's more than one church at this place. Like there's different chapels and
yeah. Wow. Oh, here's one, Theotokos.
Yeah. I mean, you can see up the sides too, right? Like
yeah.
Like go to that next picture there. You'll see the walls. This one. Yeah, look at it.
Oh my goodness. That's stunning.
Yeah.
Do you think it's mosaic?
I'm not sure. There might be some there, but
I think so.
It's painted.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. There's more, Jeremy, if you search.
Wow.
There's more and more. That's that one with the sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Whoa, that's another one. Yeah, that all looks like mosaic to me. You can kind of see it in the.
Okay,
Yeah. It looked.
Yeah, I think that's the only way those colors could stay so vivid. That's unbelievable.
Mm.
Yeah. Look at that. And the arches. Mark Vernon did a video from there. I wasn't in it though. I don't know if he was standing outside of it. Oh, look at that.
Gee. Wow.
There's a close up of that ceiling next. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I'm not used to seeing green on the ceiling for some reason. It's
Yeah.
usually bluish because the dome symbolizes, the sky. It looks cool.
It
Wow.
says
That's
mosaics.
great.
The Ravenna mosaics. So
Yeah, that's fantastic.
yeah.
Wow.
Are those trees? The green, are they trees, do you think?
Yeah.
Those are
Or
trees.
people?
Trees.
Trees. Okay. The forest.
Well, I saw men as trees walking.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That
so
could
I
be
don't know if it's
illustration.
that straightforward. I don't know if it's that easy to answer.
Oh, that's true. It could be both.
Yes, I see men
same
as trees
time.
walking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, all this symbolism, I mean, speaking about icons and the inside of the church, interior of the church, it's interesting that it gives a glimpse into what spiritual world could be like, because I mean, when we look at each other, we see certain proportions, right? We see direct perspective, etc. But when we look with our spiritual eyes, we may see totally different things. Like we may see somebody with really, big ears, spiritually speaking, like a person who is really able to hear God's word, in some way, or be very, very sensitive in some way, or fingers that are folded into the sign of the cross or something like that. It's just interesting to think how um, things in the spiritual world are sort of like what we see in this world and yet totally different.
Mm,
Maybe that's what the icons are trying to capture in
mhm.
those weird shapes, because if we just see things the way we see things outside, in the real world, we probably would not, give another thought to, what is it like in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I just looked it up and apparently that church is 5th, 6th century, like 493 or something like that. That's really
Mm,
early.
wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Definitely want to check it out once.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now I got to see where Ravenna, Italy is.
Where is it? I
It
don't know.
is. Oh, it's North Italy.
Okay.
I will share my screen so you can see where Ravenna is. So it's far up north.
Okay, so it's not too far from. Yeah.
Rona, Venice.
mm-hmm. I've been to Italy once. It's somewhere close to Ravenna, actually. The town is called Rimini, on this same
Rimini.
coast.
Yeah.
Something. Rimini is a little.
Oh, there's Rimini.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were close, I guess. Yeah.
You missed it, Eugene. Good
I
job.
missed it. Yes, I could have seen
You
it.
had one. You had one job. You didn't do it.
It said that the whole basilica is octagonal.
Oh wow! There you go.
So there you go. And there were 8 trees in that mosaic.
Oh, good catch.
I counted.
Did I miss something about octagons?
Yeah, that was the was that last week?
Yeah, it was last week. Somebody was
Yeah.
asking about it. If there was, I think he asked if there was hexagons. Oh, because we were looking at
No, it was
we were
about
looking at an icon, and there was an image on his vestment, and he was like, "Is that a hexagon?" And I was like, "No, it's an octagon."
Yeah. So you have to explain it to Eugene.
So, well, I was mentioning how it's a sign of like the 8th day of creation, which is the beginning of the new age, and that's why the baptismal fonts traditionally are often octagons, and you'll see that in icons too, like an octagonal shaped fountain. There's an icon. Let me pull it up. Icon of the life. The icon of the life-giving spring. Let me share this. There it is. So there's a version of it. I mean, there's a lot of depictions of this icon, but this one is one where the fountain is an octagon, and it's so yeah, it's the symbol of the beginning of the new age and the beginning of new life, your resurrection, all that, and the 8th day of creation. So that's where Sunday is special, where Saturday is the 7th day, so it was the Sabbath, and then Sunday became the Lord's Day, and it was the first day of the week, but it's also the 8th day because it was when he was resurrected.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting because number 7. Yeah. It's interesting. The number 7, on the one hand, it is the number of perfection in the Bible, but then there's something even more perfect, which is 8. Like
yeah.
Maybe that's why there were 8 trees in that mosaic.
Yeah, could be.
Because they were trees, that would be, the proverbial 8 days of creation, right? Yeah. Interesting. So much going on in these images, and I personally know very little. And somehow I would rather just have them wash over me, than get out a book and figure it all out.
Understand it. Yeah. And then think you understand it.
And then think, yeah. But, I actually don't really understand things when I read them if I don't have experience with them.
Yeah.
Like, I really do have a difficult time. And just in being able to have a lot of conversation here, I've been able to go back and read things that were just gibberish to me like 3 years ago. And they started to make more sense, a lot more sense.
That's how I felt about Jonathan Pajot's videos.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. Took me a while. I was intrigued, but I was confused for sure for a long time.
Me too. Well, yeah, and I couldn't figure out why I was confused because I knew what he was talking about, but I also had this sense of confusion that wouldn't leave me alone. It was weird.
Yeah, for me it was the Santa Claus Tooth Fairy video that snapped me out of it. I watched that one, like, of course, Santa Claus exists. I watched that one a few times, and finally it was like, oh, okay, identities. Okay, we can interact with identities that are larger than a person. Of course we can. We wear sports jerseys of our favorite team, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, yes, this makes total sense.
Well, I already knew that, but so that's why I was so confused that I was confused.
Yeah.
And then I just I still haven't really quite figured it out. I just put it down to he was explaining something that was obvious to me.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
that's why I got confused, because
I see.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, because you thought there was something more to it.
More to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, because I mean, I remember when it comes to Santa Claus, for example, I was about 6 or I must have been 6. And I heard a noise Christmas Eve, and I crawled to the end. I was in a bunk bed, and I crawled to the end of my bed and peeked out my door, and I saw my father playing with this toy train that he had set up, and I went, oh, it's not true. There's no Santa, right? And then I crawled back into bed. But then I thought, but it is true. Even though I just saw, right? There was something that I just knew there was something about it that was true. And yeah, like even to this day, I still believe in Santa.
Yeah.
Even though,
Well, he does exist.
Yeah, he totally does.
Yeah.
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 Great.
Well, I just started listening to Jonathan Peugeot just recently because I heard somebody mention it. And sometimes when I feel I am totally confused, that's interesting that it just usually means that I'm trying to understand with my mind.
Right.
Because when I just turn off my mind, I totally know what he says, what he's saying,
Yeah.
That's so funny.
That's exactly right. And it's funny you mentioned that, Eugene, because I listened to I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I listened to this conversation that Jonathan Peugeot and a bunch of artists that were at the art conference had at the art conference, but it was just them. It wasn't on stage. It was just them in a back room meeting, like Aidan Hart, who's an iconographer, and a couple of musicians, and Martin Shaw was there, and others. And they were talking about art and Christianity and civilization. It's a really good talk, actually. And I commented on that video. I said something like, all I kept thinking of when I was listening to them talking was, you have to ask your body what it remembers. That is art.
Yeah.
That is divine.
Mm.
And the more you think about it, the more you lose grasp of it, actually, yeah, that's kind of like turning off your mind, right? And just asking your body to remember. Like I find that when I'm writing, when I'm playing the guitar, if I think too hard about the song and I'm trying to remember the chords, I can't. But if you just let your body take over, then all of a sudden it starts to happen. You have to shut it all off, right? Shut the mind off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that something? Is that Wu Wei, Jeremy?
Yes.
Something? Is that what they call it?
Yeah. From Taoism. Yeah. The Wu Wei is action. It literally translates action, non-action. So it's doing things without forcing it, doing things without trying. And so yeah, it's like a very skilled athlete. Or someone who has been, like knitting for 40 years, and you watch them knit, and they're knitting and they're not thinking about it at all. It's just acting it out. Yeah, that's Wu Wei.
Yeah.
To work with things instead of against it.
There's a chapter in Fantastes where you might remember this. There's a poem by a guy named Sutton. I actually have the poem in my notes here. Let me see.
I don't remember offhand.
Well, I actually have a tattoo of Wu Wei on my arm, but I can't.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, I had a lot of affinity for Taoism for a lot of my adult life. Where'd it go? There we go.
Oh,
So
okay. So
it's
how does
sideways,
it
but
how does it look usually? Oh, I see. I see.
Okay.
Okay. Uh-huh. That's interesting. Well, I
Nice.
find that when Jesus actually talks about, the don't be anxious, that kind of part, that part of the Beatitudes, it's really wu wei. I mean,
yes.
I can't. It's like stop your silly human effort and just trust the flow of the Spirit, and then I mean, it's just amazing to me.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that thing about shutting your mind off, in that chapter in Fantastes, it opens with this poem by Henry Sutton. It says, "Man doth usurp all space, stares thee in rock, bush, river in the face. Never thine eyes behold a tree. 'Tis no sea thou seest in the sea. 'Tis but a disguised humanity.
Mm.
To avoid thy fellow, vain thy plan. All that interests a man is man." And 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 apparently Henry Sutton sent that to George MacDonald, and George MacDonald, and he was a young poet at the time, and he put it at the top of this chapter in Fantastes where Anodos, do you remember where he starts to see things in his peripheral vision and they look like human
Mm-hmm.
shapes?
Mm-hmm.
And then he looks at them and they're just a rock or a bush or a tree.
Yes. Yes.
And what McDonald's getting at in that is that same idea of just letting your mind go, right? Because if you focus too hard on something, you don't see what it really is,
Mm-hmm.
That's what the poem is talking about, all that interests a man is man. So if you let it come alive in your periphery, you can see the shape of something living, right? Other humans or whatever. It's just but it's all along that same line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. I totally forgot. It makes so much sense. I
Mhm.
remember, usually my wife and I really like climbing mountains. So, every time we climb a mountain, I see this or that rock, just the shape of that rock, just is so mesmerizing. I have to stop and like look at this particular shape of a rock, and I wonder, what do I see? And then if uh, I have to kind of confess that I'm seeing something that reminds me of me,
Mm,
that it's actually myself. I'm seeing something of me, because ultimately I'm interested in me,
right.
recognizing me in that and that and that and that.
Yeah.
Mm.
And yeah, if I focus too much on this rock and just my mind will take over, I'll just see the rock. But in my peripheral vision, it starts moving, it starts acting. I do, this act of recognition. There's
Yeah.
something more to it. Maybe that's what Jesus meant when he said, the rocks will cry out. If
Yeah.
my disciples fall silent, the rocks will cry out.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Martin Shaw wrote on his Substack recently. He reviewed again his conversion experience, like when he did that 101-day vigil and had that, he gave a little more detail. And he said that that day he had walked down to the river and two stones in the river just caught his attention. And he picked them up and he put them in his pocket. And then that night, when he had that encounter with that bright light that fell out of the sky, and I don't know if you've heard his story or not, but after that happened, he was kind of in a bit of an ecstatic mood. Couldn't go home. He stayed up all night there and he stayed there. And he put his hands in his pocket. And he felt these two rocks and he pulled them out and he looked at them. And they were like two separate rocks in the river bed when he picked them up. And then he noticed that they were actually two pieces of a rock that had broken in half.
Mm.
And they fit together perfectly. And and that's what happened to him that very night. Two things came together. right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when I read that line from him, it made me cry suddenly when he realized that those two stones that he had picked up earlier in the day, right? And I mean, literally, the stones cried out, Eugene, right
Yes, yes,
there,
yes, yes.
right?
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So good.
Or just this whole idea also of Merry and Pippin being picked up by Treebeard, and then he carries them. Just if I look at this, like from my peripheral vision, through my peripheral vision. I lost my train of thought.
Marion,
There's something good about that. Anyway, it'll come back.
it will. Just let it go.
Yeah.
There's something
Well,
else.
it was something like, how do you hear a tree talking to you? Because they heard a tree talking to them. But when actually, well, I've been plunging into Treebeard a little bit recently.
Okay.
So, but he talks in a very tree-ish way.
Yeah.
A very tree-ish talk. So every once in a while, he will forget how to say something in the common tongue, and he will start just babbling something in the old Entish, and it sounds like, and he says, "Oh, like something like, I wish you could understand this language," something like this, and then he says bararum, something like this.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's basically like the creaking sound of a tree in the wind. That's how it should sound,
Yeah, yeah.
to understand the language of a tree would be something,
Okay, Eugene, I have to tell you something. I have right out here, if there was a window here, I could see it. There's 3 trees out here, cottonwood trees. One's really big, one's slightly bigger, slightly shorter, and then one's quite young, actually. And the one in the middle goes up and then it's crooked like that. And the woodpeckers have been hollowing that portion of where the crook is. They've been hollowing it for years, since we've lived here, 25 years. And cottonwood trees are very well known to just break off at the top. And, there'll be like a cottonwood standing there with a broken top on it. And the hole, there's one cavity in that tree that is so big that ducks nest in there. Tree nesting ducks. That we have a lot of those kind of ducks here. And so for the last 3 years, there's been ducks nesting in that tree. But this tree is very fragile, really. Like it looks like it's one of those that's going to either topple all the way over or break at the top. And so it has this huge branch. It's probably about that big now, that just goes jutting straight out, like past the second smaller tree. I have to get into the details because it's fascinating to me. And then on that branch, it goes straight up and almost to the top with these 2 other branches that come out. Okay. And I said to my husband, you need to put a couple posts under that branch because it's so long that it's just gonna break. Plus it's growing like 2 separate trees on that branch. Okay. And then on the other side, so that's towards the smaller tree. And then on this side, it has another branch that comes out. And one day I was doing a bunch of yard work and I looked at that branch, and it's jutted out towards the old, thick, solid cottonwood, the oldest one in the row. And it's literally wrapping its branch around that tree like that. And it's crooked this way, right? So it's got to hang on to that tree. And I looked at it and I was like, no way. How is this possible? And it's just been doing this for like 25 years. It's just been like preparing, right, for this moment.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Well, they do it, and they like taking a lot of time to do it.
What came to mind when you were talking about that? How it took such a long time to do it. It reminded me about that sermon from Moby Dick on the Book of Jonah, where he makes the point that the whale that swallowed Jonah was created at the beginning,
Right.
and was there the whole time
You
waiting
mentioned that. Yeah.
for
Yeah,
Jonah. Right.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's just like this long,
just long. And the thing is,
played out
it's
plan. You know,
it's also a home for so many birds, right?
yeah.
I'm half expecting it because there's been, I don't know if you know what they are, but they're a really big woodpecker. They're about the size of a raven. They're called pileated woodpeckers. Have you ever seen them?
We
They
have
look like
really big ones here. I'm not sure what they are.
they're red, really
Yeah,
red,
red. Yeah,
black.
red. Uh-huh.
And there's been one working on those cavities on there for the last month. And there's just literally a pile of wood at the bottom of that tree. And I'm half expecting that crook part there to break in the spring winds or something. But yeah, it was just, I'll have to take a picture, Jeremy, and send it to you of that branch that's hanging on to that
Yeah,
other.
I love it.
Send it to me too, please.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I will.
What came to mind too while you were talking about that was the parable of the mustard seed, right? And he said, with what can we compare the kingdom of God, or what parable can we use to describe it? It's like a mustard seed that, when sown upon the soil, is the smallest of all the seeds on the ground. And when sown, it comes up and grows taller than all the garden plants and produces large branches, so that the birds of the sky can nest in its shade.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. You know, Marielle posted a poem by I'm trying to think of his name. It wasn't a poem, sorry. It was a prayer. Let me see here. Here it is. Saint Nikolai Velimirovich. He's a modern saint.
Okay.
And I just have to read this to you guys, because I think this also has to do with the Ents and the slow processes and the trees. You'll get it when I read it. All the prophets have from the beginning cried out to my soul, imploring her to make a virgin and prepare herself to receive the divine Son into her immaculate womb, imploring her to become a ladder down which God will descend into the world, and up which man will ascend to God, imploring her to drain the Red Sea of sanguinary passions within herself, so that man, the slave, can cross over to the promised land, the land of freedom. The wise man of China admonishes my soul to be peaceful and still, and to wait for the Tao to act within her. Glory be the memory of Lao Tzu, the teacher and prophet of his people. The wise man of India teaches my soul not to be afraid of suffering, but through the arduous and relentless drilling in purification and prayer, to elevate herself to the one on high, who will come out to greet her and manifest to her his face and his power. Glorious be the memory of Krishna, the teacher and prophet of his people. The royal son of India teaches my soul to empty herself completely of every seed and crop of the world, to abandon all the serpentine allurements of frail and shadowy matter, and then in vacuity, tranquility, purity, and bliss, to await nirvana. Blessed be the memory of Buddha, the royal son and inexorable teacher of his people. The thunderous wise man of Persia tells my soul that there is nothing in the world except light and darkness, and that the soul must break free from the darkness as the day does from the night. For the sons of light are conceived from the light, and the sons of darkness are conceived from darkness. Glorious be the memory of Zoroaster, the great prophet of his people. The prophet of Israel cries out to my soul, behold, the virgin will conceive and bear a son, whose name will be the God-man. Glorious be the memory of Isaiah, the clairvoyant prophet of my soul. O heavenly Lord, open the hearing of my soul, lest she become deaf to the counsels of your messengers. Do not slay the prophets sent to you, my soul, for their graves contain not them, but those who slew them. Wash and cleanse yourself, become tranquil amid the turbulent sea of the world, and keep within yourself the counsels of the prophets sent to you. Surrender yourself entirely to the one on high, and say to the world, I have nothing for you. Even the most righteous of the sons of men who believe in you are merely feeble shadows, which, like the righteous Joseph, walk in your shadow. For mortality begets mortality, and not life. Truly I say to you, earthly husbands are mistaken when they say that they give life. They do not give it, but ruin it. They push life into the Red Sea and drown it, and beforehand they wrap it in darkness and make it a diabolical illusion. There is no life, O soul, unless it comes from the Holy Spirit. Nor is there any reality in the world unless it comes down from heaven. Do not slay the prophets sent to you, my soul, for killing is only an illusion of shadows. Do not kill, for you can slay no one but yourself. Be a virgin, my soul, for virginity is of the soul, is the only semi-reality in a world of for virginity of the soul is the only semi-reality in a world of shadows. A semi-reality until God is born within her. Then the soul becomes a full reality. Be wise, my virgin, and cordially receive the precious gifts of the wise men from the east, intended for your son. Do not glance back toward the west where the sun sets, and do not crave gifts that are figmental and false. Isn't that incredible?
Wow. You have to send it to me, please.
I will.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
I will send you that, Eugene.
Yeah. What do you think? Yeah, I've never heard about this Sandy. Is he Russian?
He's, I think, Romanian, actually.
Romanian. So it wasn't written in Russian. Oh,
St. Nikolai,
okay.
he wrote a book called Prayers by the Lake, which I have, which Daniel sent me with these, and I haven't read it. And it was a worn out copy too, because he said he read it all the time. Now I know why. Let me see here. He is Serbian, looks like.
Serbian. Oh. So it must have been written in the Serbian language.
Must have been, yeah. It's he was born in 1881 and he died in 1956.
Mm-hmm.
An influential theological writer and a highly gifted orator, he was often referred to as the new John Chrysostom, and historian Slobodan Markovic calls him one of the most influential bishops of the Serbian Orthodox Church in the 20th century.
Mm.
Yeah, I'll send you that.
Sure, please. I have to go, guys. So good to see you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for stopping in.
Thanks for stopping in. Oh, you got something there, Jeremy?
Yeah, I got that book, The Prayers by the Lake.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. And it's not expensive. I have a copy.
Beautiful.
I was totally blown away. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, that is. That is.
And I never made the connection between the wise men and the gifts. The wise men from the East and the gifts that they brought. The way he connected it in that meditation was just amazing.
Yeah.
Just beautiful. Yeah. Well, you look kind of tired, Mr. Jeremy.
I'm getting beat.
Yep. We can
Time for me to hit the sack.
Yeah, we can sign off.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for joining us. And Jeremy is I'm hoping. Can I say it? I'm hoping.
Yeah. I am working on it. Yes.
Okay.
And I have some time this weekend where I can put some time into it.
Yeah. Well, it's not. There's whenever you're ready. Like we've got lots of paints to go through.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that Jeremy will be able to do a little thing on the 30 Years War.
Yeah, that's the plan.
I'm excited about that. And I know you'll do a great job of it, Jeremy.
Well, thank you. It's a interesting subject. There's a lot going on there, and it's still playing out today.
Yeah, and I'd like to hear what makes it so interesting to you. Like that's what I'm really curious about.
Oh, great. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll work on it.
All right. Well, again, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.
God bless you.